Hello and welcome to part 3 of the CF to SAP demo. In this demo we're going to show how to integrate some Cold Fusion components that we've generated into an existing website and link those components together in a more interactive web page typical of what you'd expect in a business application. I'm using a sample portal or website that I've already created for this called CF to SAP tutorial. Source code for this is available on request if you want to use it as a starting point to perhaps build something of your own. Anyway, we need in all cases to validate the SAP users, the username and password against SAP. So let's go straight ahead and log in. I've created a login page which doesn't give the user any choice about the SAP host, so there's a little config file that determines the SAP host. Now we're logged in. That connection information is shown in the top right of the page here. Log off buttons there. And we get just one menu at this stage. So quickly I'll just show you how we can add items to the menu in this little framework. So if you do take it home to play with yourself, you can see how this is done. It's just a simple piece of XML for each top level menu. And then a node for each sub-menu. So let's save that. The way this portal framework works, when you create a new menu for the first time, it actually creates some fusebox-like code for the menu items. It's saying there's no handler found, so we've actually now got to write some code of our own to do this work. Now, I've already written some code to show you, so I'm just going to, and we'll see that it's actually created a directory called companies and an index file. We'll just drop our pre-written code into that directory, and I'll run the pages quickly, and then I'll explain to you how we put them together. Okay, so we just click list companies. A little bit of response delay as it went all the way from New Zealand to a SAP host in the United States and brought back these companies. And this is an interactive form, so we can click on the company and get details. Okay, we'll just go back to the list companies thing, and we'll notice it's saying that info is loaded from cache, because one of the things we want to demonstrate here today is how the caching in CF to SAP can be used to save unnecessary calls to the SAP host. Okay, so shall we take a quick look at the code here? This is quite simple code, not rocket science. Don't even really need to be an expert Cold Fusion programmer to write this kind of stuff. Just need to structure things well. So we've got a sub-action, which is our choice of viewing the list or the details, and we've got a switch and a couple of case blocks. So the case block list companies we always put this line of code into these pages. This attempts to generate the CF to SAP component if it doesn't already exist. This one we did generate in our last demo, so it's already there. But, then we basically instantiate the CF to SAP component. There we are, the init method to instantiate it, and then we execute it. We're using the perform method in this case, and we're passing in the SAP connection and SAP repository objects, which we're holding in session. This enables us to persist the user's login throughout their working session. It's a very secure way of doing things. And as soon as they log off, we'll kill these session objects. But in the meantime, these session objects will persist for as long as the user is logged in. And then we've got some other options here: the use cache option, and the save cache option, and the cache name example. So what that means is that we're prompting CF to SAP to cache the data for us, and it'll hold the data in cache for 300 seconds, 5 minutes. And we're taking the company list result out of that response, and we're moving it into a query called QCompanies. Okay, so this is very straightforward CF to SAP code that you can generate using one of our sample pages, and then integrate into a page like this. For display form, again, there's a switch statement. there's a heading, there's an output just to show us that information was loaded from cache, and then there's a simple table with a query loop, and the query loop includes the company code and the company name, and an anchor which links to the company detail option on the form. Ditto, likewise the company detail, basically very simple, just a heading, a prompt if the data was cached. I will go back to that in a second, and then a div with some labels and fields. So let's have a look quickly at these detail pages again. Now notice the first time we clicked that, there probably was a 1 to 2 second delay, which was retrieving the data from the United States, but now it's much quicker. Okay, so we're using Cold Fusion here, and the power of Cold Fusion is often said to be in its flexibility. So this is the kind of cool thing you can do. When we get a list of companies, there is only one set of companies in an SAP system. So we can very safely hard code the cache name and save that into a cache file that will always be the same until the cache time's out, and we will reload it. Now let's face it, SAP companies change about once every 10 years, so there's really no chance of that data ever changing. You could quite safely set that cache time out at about 300,000 and it wouldn't matter. But company details obviously vary as you click on each company. We need to bring back different details. So if we want to cache those, we need to variabilize the cache name. So here we've taken the attributes company, which is actually the parameter for the CF to SAP component, and we've used that to dynamically create the cache name. So that means that for each company code that we click on, a new cache will be created. There. Isn't that a useful feature? Saves a lot of unnecessary calls against the SAP host. Clearly you have to use a feature like this with great care. If the data you're working with is likely to be dynamic or changed frequently in the on the SAP side of things, then you possibly should not use the cache at all. But on the other hand, you can create specific caches for specific data sets. Now very briefly, I'll just show you how these caches are stored. There's a cache file for each cache name stored in the CF to SAP data directory under cache, and each SAP host and client has its own distinct cache. Okay, and that's stored in the function data directory, and then each cache has a name consisting of the function name and then the name assigned to the cache as a suffix assigned to the cache by the developer or the program. And if you have a quick look, you can see it's a simple XML file with the cache data. Now, if you have any concerns about the security of this data, bear in mind that in a real-life application, all of this information is stored on the web server, and the web server should obviously be a fully secured server. You wouldn't even dream of attempting to build an application that integrates with SAP on anything but the most secure of web servers. Now, back to our demo. Let's have a look at the cost center functionality quickly. Again, I've already developed some code here sitting in my temp directory, so I'll just drop that code into our company's directory. And here we have a slightly different approach. We have a list of controlling areas in an SAP system. Cost centers are grouped by controlling area. So when we ran our initial test of this, we were just keying in the controlling area by knowing the number. In this instance, we're going to select from a drop-down. Now you will have noticed something of a delay just then, and that's because we had to build the get controlling area component. Our code at cost center get list, it starts with generate CFC BAPI controlling area get list. So while we were doing that, I've just deleted it prior to this demo. We'll see controlling area get list has just been generated to enable us to run this page. So that's quite a useful feature. You can generate your components manually back in CF to SAP, or to be sure that they exist, you can add a line into your code which will force them to be generated. Okay, so all we've really done here once again is we've set up the connection and executed the controlling area get list method. This time we've used the execute method, which is slightly more longhand way of doing it. Again, we're saying use a cache, save a cache, and giving the cache no example. And then what we're doing in our display form is we are looping on the controlling area list we're inside an HTML select object and setting up the options for that select, which gives us this drop down. Now, as it happens, this system has a lot of controlling areas, but only one of them has any cost centers on it, which is this 001. So when we click go, we're now going to hit the cost center BAPI and bring back a list of cost centers. Now this gives us a chance to show you another neat feature. It's a feature really of Cold Fusion, not of CF to SAP, but it's the kind of thing that you can leverage to create a nice user-friendly application. So notice that we have a couple of radio buttons on this form for sorting. Okay, so sort by name, sort by number. Now we're using cache data, so we're able to avoid a round trip to SAP to refresh this data, but we're using the Cold Fusion query on query to enable us to sort the data. So if we look here, we're moving the cost center list into the CF query, and then we're doing another CF query DB type query, which is query on query. Select star from queue cost center list, order by, attributes order by, attributes order by being a field that we pass into the form. So quite useful functionality, combining our caching with the capabilities of Cold Fusion to do query on query. Okay, so this brings us to the end of this demo. In future, I'll be adding some more items to this menu. We're going to look at sales, we're going to look at purchasing, and we're going to look at projects. And this will give you a good idea of what you can do with CF to SAP. In the meantime, if you have any questions or queries, please just visit www.cf2sap.com and fill out the contact us form. We'd be very happy to hear from you. Thank you very much for listening to us.